looking for the name for it here. West Virginia-based Morgantown company is laying off all of their nurses nationwide. There are 150 clinics across the country, and they are dumping all their nurses. Now, I guess that means they're going to be running with techs, and although nursing techs provide an important service, not having nurses in the unit seems to be somewhat of a challenge. So that's going to be interesting to see what other systems do. Optum also got rid of 1,000 people in one state, primarily in their physician services group, executives who were working with physician groups that were affiliated with Optum. So this is a significant change. Optum has gone through some leadership change. They have a new president, and she seems determined to make a change. Thank you, Stephanie, for letting me know. For some reason, we cannot hear that in the studio anymore. And I'm going to have to figure out what is going on. So, I hope the music is gone now. That's kind of rambunctious music to talk over. Okay, let me get back on track here. Layoffs are escalating, and Optum is certainly one of the big national systems that's done a significant layoff. Their MedExpress clinic in Morgantown, West Virginia, which has 100 clinics nationwide, announced that they are doing away with all of their nurses. Although, because there's no the number of employees per unit does not exceed 100, which falls under the Federal Warren Act. They're not announcing these layoffs too much in advance. So it's a significant blow to those people. It will be. I think it's going to have an impact on the business and the quality of the care. Nurse techs are really good, but you need some nursing judgment involved in overseeing some of those operations, and so that's something that's happening. Other health systems are really drastically changing up their executive suites. A lot of the COO roles are being consolidated with either CNO or CFO. And so I think you will continue to see reductions in healthcare. Again, they're dealing with higher cost. And part of that higher cost is the higher cost of employees. All those people that they allowed to leave to go do traveling nurses, and then they paid higher costs for traveling nurses, are now finding that the people they're trying to recruit back are wanting more money and are getting it elsewhere. And so those people who let their good longtime employees go to traveling positions should have paid the money and kept them, to be perfectly honest. But that's the way healthcare works sometimes. We're penny wise and pound foolish. Let's see. I saw this I was going to share with you this morning. Across the country, we're seeing a lot of information about return to work or return to the office orders from various organizations. Zoom, which profited huge way during the pandemic, is now telling their employees they want them back at certain hub sites as soon as possible. Amazon is putting a lot of pressure on their personnel to return to work. There's a lot of pushback, and Amazon and Zoom have both said that employees that don't return will be terminated. A regional bank in Australia, the bank president, she decided she wanted them back in the office, and the reason she said 2 to 3 days a week was for the employees' mental health, which, as an Australian newspaper reported, it was a roaring backlash. So one can only imagine. One of the things I wanted to talk today about is the whole thing about branding and how you have to pay attention to your brand, even when you are not necessarily involved in a job search. This is not something you can turn off and on. A person I was talking to the other day said that, well, I think I'm may have to make a career change, but I'm not ready to do that yet. And the point then is, holy cats, When do you make that change? And don't wait too late. Well, in branding, you can't wait too late. It's something you have to do all the time. And so you really need to be very, very involved and in managing your brand. And so what does that mean? It means that you need to understand what is your mission, vision, and values, and write it down. If you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. So you want to write that down, and then you also want to think about what do you want to be known for? How do you want to be perceived in the marketplace? And this is part of your value brand statement, that if you do get into the job market and you do start interviewing, this becomes plays an important role in how you answer many of the behavior and values questions. So you want to say, okay, this is my mission, vision, and values. This is how I want to be seen in the marketplace. And then you start constructing posts. You start building a network. You start promoting your accomplishments around those mission, vision, and values. And it's something that you just can't flick the light switch on and suddenly you can build a brand. This takes years to do. So we all know that the average executive in the United States, in healthcare at least, is going to be in the job 3 to 5 years. Well, somebody said, so when should I start focusing on my brand? I said the day you start your new job, which is also the day you should start working on networking again. This is not job search specific. And if you make it that way, you will find that the next time you go to market with additional changes coming down the pipe and automation, you'll be further and further behind. So that's something I really want to encourage you to do, and that is get your branding program up and running. If you're struggling with it, or you want some guidance, sometimes it's helpful to talk to somebody that's a neutral party to help you put together your mission, vision, values, to put together your value brand statement. Because we were not brought up to brag about ourselves, we sometimes don't look at our accomplishments the same way as a recruiter would. And having spent 27 years as a recruiter, I can tell you that candidates frequently, sometimes would almost not mention incredibly impactful, incredibly interesting accomplishments because they just didn't think they were that interesting. And so sometimes, as I said, it's good to talk to a third party. We do that all the time in our practice, where people come in and they engage us to do entire career transitions. Sometimes it's just a mock interview. Sometimes it's just to help put together their value brand statement. Sometimes it's to talk about career advancement strategies. And so that's something that I think that is really, really important to consider. And the other thing that's happening is automation is really, really, really changing the face of how we will look for jobs. And right now, it's really, really frustrating for people that haven't been in the job market, and even for people who understand how it works and understand what happens when their resume is not picked. It's still very frustrating. So let me repeat some important things you've got to keep in mind. Number one, the most inefficient way to find a job is applying online. Do people find jobs online? Yes. Do people find executive jobs online? Yes. But what they're not finding are perhaps the best jobs that are never listed online. And so you need to build that network, and you need to build that brand. And as we continue forward with the automation, it is only going to become more dominant. It is only going to become more sophisticated and in terms of candidate sourcing and in candidate selection. And human recruiters over the next 5 years will play a smaller role in deciding who gets selected for key jobs. Management is buying in to the idea that algorithms are superior. So I hope you have your coffee, your juice, your water. No adult beverages at this hour, unless you're in a job search, and you may resort to that out of frustration. So I think this is really important. The branding is going to be how you get recognized by those online scanners. If you have a strong brand presence on LinkedIn, It's will increase your chances that that scanner will see you. If you're in the job market, you need to be posting 4 to 6 times a week. It doesn't have to be organic content. It could be whatever. But whatever you post, be sure it's consistent with your mission, vision, and values. Don't post politics. There's not anything you can say politically right now that somebody's not going to disagree with. So try to avoid that at all cost. And I would say that, but you do need to find some good content. And believe me, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And if you think about, well, what can I publish? If you have some accomplishments, if you did something that you thought was really cool, and you don't ever talk about it, do a little 250 word or 150 word mini case study. What was the issue? What was the fact situation? What was the strategies you deployed to address that? What was the outcome? And you will be surprised that people, you may say, that's silly. Nobody has an interest in that. Let me tell you one of the most popular strategies on YouTube to build your membership subscriber list. Answer specific questions, okay? And because that's why people go to YouTube. So the other piece of that is sometimes from our perspective, the producer's perspective, we go, you know what, we're not going to do a video on that. No, everybody knows that. Well, that falls into the category of answering specific silly questions. And believe me, every time I do one of those videos, I have a higher level of viewership than if I do something that may be a more important in terms of strategic direction of your job search. But it won't get as many views. But if I answer a question that I think everybody knows, boom. And the same thing applies to your mini case studies. You're going to say everybody knows how to do that, but you may have done something unique, or you may get a whole host of people who have not thought of that and are interested. And some of those people are hopefully going to be recruiters, or they're going to be the scanners that are looking at your profile on an ongoing basis. Now, people say, well, how does that change the job market? In the old traditional search, there were 2 types of candidates. There were active candidates, people who were applying for jobs, and passive candidates, people who qualified for the job but weren't actively applying. They weren't actively seeking employment. Sometimes we would hear about those really big stars in our networking and would make a call, and 50% of the time those people would be interested because it represented an improvement in their career. It represented more money, more scope of responsibility, a better working environment, a new geographic location that was more desirable. So what the scanning is doing is that it is making passive candidates actively involved in searches whether they want to be or not. And so if you get an email with a picture at the top that's kind of got that round circle, which is so characteristic of what LinkedIn does, that's kind of one of their hallmarks, you probably will understand that that is an automated email generated by a recruiter, not necessarily a LinkedIn recruiter, but from a health system or a corporation or a search firm that is paying LinkedIn to use their online scanning resources. And LinkedIn is also selling, according to a couple of people I've been talking to lately, are selling access to the database for corporate scanners under certain circumstances. So LinkedIn absolutely, for the huge price that Microsoft paid for LinkedIn, they are monetizing the heck out of that with access with access for recruiting tools, as well as selling their own very pricey recruiting aids. What does this do? It means that corporations don't need as many researchers, don't need as many recruiters, and more can be automated. Now, these scanning programs have the ability not only to get down to, say, out of 2,000 or 3,000 people that they look at, get it down to about 150 or 200. It can, out of that group, create a profile that says these 50 people are more likely to succeed in this job based on the things they post, based on their organic contributions and their other items they're posting. it concludes these people are more likely to succeed. Those will probably be the people that get the email news from the recruiter saying, if you have an interest, submit your resume. And here's some background on the job, and here is the link to the job summary, and here is the link to submit your resume. You still must customize your resume. Even though they've reached out to you, you're still going to be dealing with the other side of the automation, which is something most people already know about, don't like, but know about it, applicant tracking systems, which is essentially the routing resume screening device that routes the jobs to the right recruiters, to the right employers. So automation is here, and one of the strategies to deal with automation is more aggressive brand management, reputation management. So I hope that's something that's beneficial. If you have some questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'm periodically checking on that. Let's see here what we have. All right. We were off last week, and so somebody said once you take a week off, it takes 2 weeks to build back the following. That's just that's the way it goes. I saw something the other day. There is a very famous African American pastor, bishop in the Dallas area, T.J. Jakes, I believe it is, Bishop Jakes, and he had a video on the other day. It said, if you don't want to make waves, be mediocre, be normal and fit in, dress like them, work like them, act like them, eat like them, go where they go, think like they think, do what they do. And when you have neutralized your own uniqueness, you don't need courage. It takes courage to be different. It takes courage to be successful. It takes courage to win. People don't want to be around people who don't believe in winning. If you win, they're going to talk about you. You have to have courage. A lot of people, now there's some elements of that we could debate whether it's all spot on, but let me tell you something. There are some elements of that are so true. First of all, if you're not posting, nobody's going to talk about you. You may sit and you may do an incredible job in your health system, in your manufacturing management position. You may really be killing it. But if people don't know, they're not going to talk about it. And so people don't become aggressive with promoting their brand because they don't want to be criticized. They don't feel comfortable bragging about themselves. You have to. The time for that sort of false modesty is over. You must develop a plan to promote your brand. You have to have the courage to step out there. One of the hardest things I have done in my life was not starting Lifelight, was not being a newspaper reporter, was not starting my own search firm. The hardest thing in my life was to convert from search to executive coaching to an online platform. I am solely dependent on digital marketing. I'm somebody who grew up in the era of relationship marketing. That's really my strength. And for those people who I've known over the years will go, that's probably the understatement. But the issue is, it took a lot of courage. Not that I'm particularly brave, because I'm still struggling to push myself outside the box, because that's what it takes. You may try something that doesn't work, okay? It's a failure. You may feel bad, but let me tell you something. Unless you do something really, really horrific, nobody's going to remember, nobody's probably going to care within the day, and certainly not a recruiter. So don't be afraid to get out there and push your brand out onto LinkedIn, because you don't want to be considered too flashy. Flashy are the guys that are getting the good jobs. So you need to consider that. We have on one of our platforms some of the questions that have come in already. Why isn't let's see, I'm having trouble reading my staff's writing. Why? Well, took me a minute. I should have been, that looks like, that's hen scratching, my mother would call it. Why isn't doing a job enough? Well, let me tell you, doing a job, there are people across America that are doing incredible jobs. There are people across America that are doing incredible jobs that want to be promoted. There are people across the globe and across America that are doing incredible jobs, that want to be promoted, that deserve to be promoted, that need to make more money, that want to move to the top, that aren't promoting themselves. There are people across America that all of those things encompass that will not fulfill their complete purpose. You are meant for more. And if you don't stand out and you don't begin to be more aggressive about promoting yourself in this new automated environment, okay? 20 years ago, 20 years ago, you know, being really aggressive was probably frowned on in certain industries, but not anymore because people are less involved in the process. And so now you have to learn how to. You're not going to talk to somebody early in the recruiting process anymore unless you're being sought out by you've been referred to somebody or a recruiter knows about you and calls you. You're not going to talk to anybody. You're going to have to learn to talk in the language that a computer can understand. Let's see, sir, I get money for work, please. Okay, star boy. I'm not sure what that means. You will have to add some explanation to that before I can help you with that answer. How often should I post each week? If you're not in the job market, 2 to 3 times a week is over Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are probably good post days, especially on LinkedIn. If you are in the job market, 4 to 6 times a week. And it needs to be it can be news stories regarding your industry. It can be things that you strongly believe in and they reflect your values and can help you talk about your own strengths. A little bragging there is in order. Or it can be organic materials, things that you create yourself. Is X, okay, X, the site formerly known as Twitter, is X a good site for business networking? Absolutely not. That's a site that may not survive. Even Musk said it's in peril. So don't waste your time. We've canceled our account. I had about 3,500 followers, but in my mind, and it had nothing to do with the free speech. That's just a flash in the pan. It had to do with there were a lot of things being posted on that site that weren't consistent with my company's values. They weren't consistent with my values. Now, I don't expect everybody to agree with me, but there was a lot of stuff that I just said, I don't want my name associated with a site that has that kind of activity. Elon Musk describes himself as a free speech absolutist. Well, let me tell you, Elon, don't be yelling out fire in a crowded theater or you'll find out that there's some limitations to everything in the world. Even anything the Constitution guarantees, there are limitations. So I would not use X. Sorry I got into that little swamp there that sounded a little political. I mean, I don't care for some of the things that are being said. I don't think they represent our country's values. They don't represent my values. And so I didn't want my brand associated with that. And there are a lot of other companies that have fled the site and they've lost a lot of money in advertising. Don't go over there because it's not a good business networking site. If you do not enjoy networking, I do not enjoy networking. It makes me really uneasy. Is it really necessary in this new environment? Absolutely. If you don't like networking, you're not going to probably overcome it, on your own. So I would hire somebody to help you put together a networking plan. We're not talking the king's ransom here. Networking plans, there's a course that we have online called Networking 3.0. Go take a look at that at johngself.com. Click the little ribbon on the side, enter the Guiding Your Career Academy, and just scroll through the courses to find Networking 3.0. Networking 3.0 is a form of networking that's built around your career plan. Oh, you don't have a career plan? Well, you better get one because you can only have a network that's effective of about 140 people, maybe 150. So once you back out friends and family, you're probably down around 110 to 120. So you have to target your networking. And if you're going to target your networking, what do you use to establish the parameters? Your career plan. Where do you want to go next? What's your next step up? Oh, well, I don't know where I want to go next. Well, let me tell you something. You better start thinking about that, because there are economists that say we're home free on the inflation threat, and there are others that are saying, good Lord, it's the indicators are stronger than ever, and prepare for a rough late fall and early first and second quarter of next year. So don't, the heck with all the predictions, be prepared. And if you don't have a career plan, you need to start thinking now, especially if you're an executive in a secondary market where there is absolutely no chance for you to find a comparable job, comparable pay, comparable scope of responsibility in the same market where you currently live. Sit down with your partner or your spouse and talk about, okay, this is preemptive. If something bad happens, where do we want to go next? Here's what I want to do with my career. What's going to be a great place for me and for our family to continue to move forward? So many people need to be doing that, and they are not. So networking is something you have to do. We can teach you how to do it. It can be a lot of fun once you get into it. It's not really a game, but the incredible people that you can meet and the things that you can learn are really, really incredible. I have met some of the most interesting people in the world. Some of it was because I sat next to them on an airplane, and because I was not afraid to talk to them. And one of my prize moments is I got to ride on a Delta flight from Atlanta to Dallas with the late Congressman John Lewis, who was a legend in the civil rights movement. It was the most incredible 2 hours of storytelling, of somebody sharing deeply held values and thoughts about leadership. And I got so much from that. And, there are times that, you've got to be able to recognize good opportunities for networking. There's a structure to it. There's a rhythm to it. We can teach you that. So if you have any questions, visit my website. If you want to talk to me, we have free telephone consultations. Go to the bottom and click the Talk to John button, and we're happy to give you some time. You had a video this week, Tell Me Something I Don't Know. Why is that important, and how can I use that? It was built around a great line from Aaron Sorkin, who wrote West Wing, who's an incredible screenwriter for movies and television. And Sorkin said one of the cardinal rules of screenwriting is don't write something in the script that your viewers already know. So what I'm saying is, don't go into an interview and telling them stuff that's just on your resume. Be able to have answers to questions that will give them some more perspective about your judgment, about your values, about what you can do for them. I guarantee you can't put everything on your resume that you've done that's been interesting, that you've done that's been innovative. So that's something you might even want to use in your first answer when they ask you, tell us a little bit about yourself. That's when you can tell them something they don't know. We have a mock interview that we provide. It's online. You can go check that out. One of the things about our mock interview that people say is, I went to do a mock interview and I ended up, almost feeling like I had a full interview course. And that's one of the values of that program. Let's see. What if you are in huge debt at the early stage of life when you're just 23 and just because of health issues and family when you're planning to go on top initially? Life is unpredictable. It certainly is. And I will tell you that there are tons of people in your position. We've all overcome incredible challenges. And to do that, you have to have a plan. And to do that, you have to understand your value. You can't sit back and hope everything works out. You have to have faith. You have to have a plan. You have to have determination. You have to have courage, and you have to understand you're going to get knocked back down again. And the question is, do you get it back up? Denzel Washington is fond of saying that, he's the only thing he's going to fall back on. Our parents always said this: you better have something to fall back on. You better have something to fall back on. His great line is, the only thing I'm going to fall back on is my faith. I want to fall forward so I know what I'm about to hit. Starboy, I hope that helps you. If you'd like to talk to me, you can schedule a free consult. I'm happy to talk to you at greater length. We do not do loans. This is not a loan site. There are plenty of other resources out there, including crowdfunding. I hope if you don't have any more questions, I hope we can move forward, and we will now be back on our regular schedule next week, Thursday mornings at 7:30. We're here to talk about career management, job search strategies, career advancement, and we will be we'll be unveiling more information next week about our Your Career Community, and that's a new membership program that will be designed for a small monthly fee. You'll get valuable discounts to our online courses and access to our monthly webinars. And we will be then activating our monthly meetups for our clients, current and former clients. So, thanks for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful. Sorry for the technical glitches early on. I'm going to be talking with StreamYard to find out why we're not able to hear the music. So take care, everybody, and we will see you next Thursday morning, 7:30 a.m. Central Time.